Office Hours Arbitrage Season 3, Episode 4, I think. I think we're Episode 4. And what I do is I talk to the community about data science and the tournament. It's also a chance for people to ask questions about the tournament, how to improve their models, and we talk about what's going on. And today what's going on is it's the day after we had a quarterly Fireside chat with the founder of the hedge fund, Richard, and the chief of engineering. I think I got his title wrong, but that's what I remember it being. Anson, who goes by Sly Fox in RocketChat. So we're still waiting on scores, but we certainly can talk about Fireside Chat because that's what I want to do today. For me, the biggest takeaway was that we were promised additional model spots, potentially as of yesterday. And here he is, the man who promised it, in person, and we can ask him about it. Are you going to do a top knot?
Yeah, I am.
My top knot's getting pretty awesome, bro.
I started looking into it already. It's coming soon. Richard's like, yeah, you got to work on it now.
yeah. You opened Pandora's box, now you got to deliver, my friend.
Yeah.
I figured it wasn't going to happen anyway. I have no idea what that looks like on the back end. So you're like, maybe we'll do it today, and I was like, oh, he's going to regret that. I just know it. It would have gone one of two ways. Either it would have launched right away, or you would have done it while I was asleep, and I would have woken up to having all these spots. But when I checked my computer this morning, there wasn't more spots. So I was like, well, we'll see. We'll see what he has to say on OHWA. So I guess it's just a little more work than you thought. Oh, he muted himself. He doesn't want to talk about it anymore. I see.
Yeah. It's a little bit more work than I thought. I mean, it seems like it's just one line change, like limit to 10, limit to.
It does. It looks like it's really easy. It's a count, right? It's got to be an integer.
Yeah.
If models equals 10, stop.
Yeah. But I also wanted to do a little bit more checks, because I feel like we've stepped up our game in terms of not shipping features that are broken on first day. I don't want to be the one breaking that trend.
Okay.
I'm doing all the tests.
I feel you. Hey, the culture of test it in production is ending, I suppose. But I'm going to perpetuate that because I tested my compute in production and I spent $5, which is like literally 6 times my average monthly cost because I kept getting it to work and then it would break. And then I'd get to go a little bit further and then it would break. And I didn't care. I don't know. I was lazy.
How about changing names of models? Is that easy or hard? And do you want to do that?
Changing names of models is actually hard because the name is actually used in a bunch of places. So that would just require me to change it in a lot of different places. Whereas number of models is just one place. It's the place that stops you from adding more. But I guess my question also is like, what relative value does changing model names give you?
Minimal.
Well, I could have one named, this is, charisma focused or something. It would be obvious. And then later on, it wouldn't be anymore. I gave up that. You could even advertise exactly what it was, neural network, whatever. And then eventually it's not a neural network at all, and it's still called that. And it's a lot of new user regret when they don't realize that they're stuck with whatever they put.
That's true.
Yeah.
A bit of that.
They put poopy pants, haha, and then they realize they don't want to be stuck with that forever.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But it doesn't affect our payout. It doesn't affect our model performance. And it doesn't impact anything any other way. So I would say it's extremely low impact. It's just
not a big deal, but if it was easy, I would take it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it impacts your vanity, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Indeed. Like the rank. It's all about the rank, right? But, I'm so creative that I just put numbers after the 3 things that I named my models after. So.
That's what I do. If I were allowed to change my model names.
I wouldn't change anything. But for me, I mean, I understand other people want to. When it comes
I just come up with new jokes and then I have nowhere to put them. So.
I was also talking to Harsh about how WiggleMuse, you changed your identity from Vantratoni to WiggleMuse.
Well, on RocketChat, that was quite easy.
Right.
And I signed up, one of my accounts is Quantnosticator. And so when we when you turned on the forum, you had to connect it to one of your accounts. This was before multi-model. So I was like, Quantnosticator sounds like a real normal name.
I like that name, by the way. I think it's pretty dope.
Me too.
But then when we did multi-model, I didn't realize it was that integrated. And he said, what do you want? And my main email address happened to be connected to WiggleMuse rather than all these alternative email addresses I had to use before.
Right.
So Quantnosticator, I was no longer allowed to, it just died on the forum. It's a dead account. I can't get to it anymore. So thus, I changed my name on RocketChat. So I do WiggleMuse everywhere. And WiggleMuse is not any special word. It's just one of the nonsense words that I came up with. Most of my accounts, besides Quantnosticator, which is sort of a sensible thing, are nonsense words. Some of my other accounts are Smoghovian and Crash Balloon and Hitch Spockian. That's fun. So
sometimes changing your name allows you to change your outlook and your perspective.
I didn't know I was going to be on here every day with this ridiculous word, WiggleMuse.
Hey, you know, that now. I used to call you the data scientist formerly known as Ventertron. I do want to talk a little bit about the levered MMC. So that was very interesting. The thing with the MMC leverage is that if we can't adjust our stakes fast enough, the alternative then would be to apply leverage on correlation or core plus MMC. And there's a little bit of discussion in that in general this morning, because if we can have a smaller stake, but put it 2x, that might help. But the MMC deal is better for you all because you want unique models that are good. So I get that. So I think it's a balance. So I guess my point in bringing that up is, what's going to happen first? Are we going to be able to adjust stakes faster, or are we going to be able to have leverage on MMC?
I think Nomi is definitely the top priority right now, getting that out.
Yes.
That has the biggest impact on performance. I think I want to attach something good, like a feature along with Nomi, and I think the multiplier on MMC is the one that we can do the quickest, highest impact with the least risk.
Right.
The
20 rule.
stake changes one, I've been working on a long time, but there's a lot of corner cases, and I don't want to rush that one. So I think that will probably come later.
If you do an MMC multiplier, I would like it to also be fractional, 0.5 MMC.
Yeah. Michael Oliver wants to just be a little slider that you can just have you can just set whatever number. But
I don't want it to be just higher. It should be starting at 0 or 1% or whatever.
Yeah.
Michael Oliver, while you stepped away, I was asking a question. I should have waited till you came back. But I was asking, you asked for us to provide you a list of our models that we trained on Nomi, so that you could presumably take a look at the analytics behind them. I was curious, what did you find, and how's it looking?
Yeah, so I just did a couple of things. I basically just made a simple naive meta model, just averaging all your predictions together and pre-normalized in a particular way, and also a stake-weighted version. And both look really good. I mean, there was only 41 models, so the naive average actually looked better, which is not terribly surprising given the number and how unequally distributed the stakes were among those 41. But yeah, they both looked great. And Richard asked me to do a few more analytics on it, and I was looking at one right now, which also looks good. So yeah, it's looking quite good. Yeah, we had a particular internal goal of hitting a number, which we haven't done, but just looking at the way things are moving with this, it looks like we might hit it without having to do anything more, just by the effect of the target as more people adopt it, which is, yeah, so I count that as a win.
I have a question for Michael Oliver. So right now, if we use Nomi targets, if we use Nomi training data, we are scored on Kazutsugi target, right?
Yep.
But when you release this, we're going to be training on Nomi and being scored on Nomi as well, right?
Yeah.
So what's the purpose then? So why are we? I mean, I guess one of the purposes is like for us to get acquainted with a new data set, but like, how can we extrapolate from our results under Nomi being scored on CAS on the future, where we are going to be training on Nomi and be scored on Nomi? Does that make sense?
I'm not exactly sure what your question is. I mean, you can.
Okay. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Right now we have two training data sets, one for CAS and one for Nomi, right?
Only different in the targets. Yes.
Yes. And so then if I train right now on Nomi, I get scored on a target that you made for CAS.
Yep.
Okay. So what's going to happen when I train on Nomi and get scored on Nomi?
Yeah. So I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, it's just going to be the correlation is done with the targets derived in the other way. It's just yeah.
How different are they from the ones that we have right now?
I mean, the only difference between the two targets is the distribution, the final distribution. And the Kazutsugi is designed to have an even distribution across the 5 bins, and Nomi is designed to have this more Gaussian shaped distribution.
Right. So would you agree with me that our scores right now are not representative of what they're going to be when Nomi is released?
Yeah, so yeah, scoring on CAS is probably a little bit easier than scoring on Nomi. So your scores, if you train on Nomi, your CAS scores will go up. When scoring on, so you get a sort of short-term benefit for that. But when scoring on Nomi, it'll look more like training on CAS, testing on CAS. So they should be roughly comparable.
If validation 2 includes data after the test set, and then he asks, is that actually true? Is it possible there's a new data leak now that people may be training on validation 2? And that's regarding meta model improvement on test set from yesterday. Because there was that jump in the graph. I saw that too.
I'm not sure what you mean by a leak.
Validation 2 occurs in the COVID timeframe, right?
Right.
So if we're training, some models are training on validation 2, then we're getting a time leak if the test set is before COVID.
Oh, I see.
Right. So it's possible that some of that is a data leak. Don't know if that actually impacts the performance or not. Because I don't know how many people are training on validation 2. I mean, I only have 3 models, I think max, that have validation 2 included.
Well, there's not a data leak in the sense of there's no periods of time that are overlapping between the test set and the validation 2. In terms of the future training on future dates and predicting better on the past, I mean that is a potential, but that doesn't seem to correspond to what we're seeing. The big jumps in performance we've seen recently seem to correspond to the release of metrics and Nomi. That's where we've seen the biggest increases.
If your correlation goes down from Kazutsugi to Nomi on some models, what would be the reason? Is it feature exposure or some other reason?
I mean, it's a hard question to answer. There's
right.
a million and one reasons performance can go up and down. And so, but yeah, I think the target is just the distribution, and it's maybe a little bit harder of a target overall, but not terribly so. It's just, but it's, yeah, so CAS is more regular, has sort of more regularization with the uniform distributions built in, which makes correlation a little bit easier on it, it seems. But it's not a huge difference.
What about the validation having the 3 missing weeks still obscured to us, but on the metrics page? I thought that was also something really important from FSC, and I'd like to kind of bring that up again and see if Anson et al. Will implement that for us.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I like it primarily because it allows you to get a better sense of how competing live will look like with your model.
Yeah.
And it allows us to compute more realistic, like expected returns metrics, which is what we wanted to do anyways. So I think it's good. And if we're also giving you the actual validation data we use, or similar validation data for you to actually train on, then you're not going to like attack that endpoint just to get more information, since you actually have the information that you already need. So I like it.
So when will you ship it?
Everything is a matter of priorities or arbitrage.
Yes. Well, they're all my #1 priority, except for the stake changes. That's the ultimate priority. And so to me, it's just a question of changing one line of code, and bingo bango, we're in production. So
everything's coming, all the good things.
All the things. Okay.
Michael Oliver, can you describe in English what your new function does that you posted that takes a max setting for the feature neutralization, and then I guess iteratively lowers it? What does that actually do as a procedure?
Sure. So, okay, so feature neutralization is just finding a linear model in terms of the features of your predictions, and then subtracting that off in some proportion. So what this code is trying to do is it's trying to find a linear model that, when subtracted off, lowers your feature exposures below that threshold. So you're setting a target feature exposures. So you can think of, you have a feature exposure for every feature, and you want to clip that at a maximum value of, say, 10%. And all that function is doing is trying to learn a linear model that lowers your feature exposure for every feature, so that if feature exposure for every feature goes down, some can stay the same, but they can't go up. And the maximum feature exposure is below your clipped value. So it allows there to be some more residual feature exposure. So if a feature had, say, 5% exposure, but you set a clipping of 10%, it might not go down at all. It might stay at 5, might go down to 4, but in that code, it can't go up. I had a previous version where it would just force things to be within that range, but I found that would sometimes give you more feature exposure to some features that had lower feature exposure. But just because you weren't constraining that to be the case. So this was a version I was happy with, where your feature exposure is always going to be less, but it allows you to control the max in a way. But it's just finding a linear model of the features to subtract off.
Well, we're about out of time. I've now been on Twitch for 3 hours. All right, everybody. I will see you in RocketChat, and we'll do daily scores and chill tomorrow at 1500 UTC. 1500 UTC.